This is the Read to Lead podcast, episode 111.
Hi, I'm Cesar Abade, author of the best-selling book, Project Management for You: How to Turn Your Ideas into Reality, Deliver on Your Promises, and Get Things Done. Listening to this show has helped a lot of people do all three. It's the Read to Lead podcast with my friend Jeff Brown.
If you were to ask me, Jeff, what one book should I read today if I want to become a better presenter, a better public speaker? My answer to that question would be...
Welcome to the Read to Lead podcast with Jeff Brown. Jeff believes that if you desire to achieve true success in business and in life, then consistent and intentional reading is a must. The Read to Lead podcast will not only help you narrow this ever-important reading list, but also bring you key insights and valuable feedback from some of today's most successful and inspiring authors. And now, here's Jeff.
Hello to you and welcome to the podcast dedicated to your personal and professional growth, where each and every week the topic of leadership is central to everything we do, but we also dig into related topics like personal development, productivity, career, business, marketing, and entrepreneurship. And today is an exciting day because we're going to take a look at the 5 best books of 2015. My 5 favorites from the past year. And just as exciting, I'm giving away copies of each of these 5 books to one lucky winner. To find out more about how to enter, and all it takes is your email address, by the way, simply visit readtoleadpodcast.com/111. There you'll also find links to each of the 5 books featured today. Now, originally, my intention was to rank these books from 5 on down to number 1. And I finally came to the conclusion that I just could not do that. It was too difficult. Now, I hope you don't think that a cop-out in any way. It's not. I finally realized that ranking them in some order was really just going to be arbitrary because I like each of the 5 so well. So think of it this way. Of all the books I've read this past year, of the 50 or so I've presented to you here on the show, these 5, you could say, are tied for first place as my favorite 5 of the entire year. And so in no particular order, here they are. The first one is from an author I've really come to admire over the past year. Her name is Dorie Clark, and her book is called Stand Out: How to Find Your Breakthrough Idea and Build a Following Around It. In fact, Inc. magazine named it their number 1 leadership book of 2015. So you cannot go wrong with this one. Dorie contends that too many of us believe that if we just keep our heads down, work really, really hard, that we'll be lauded as experts on simply the merits of our work. But she says that's just not the case anymore. Standing out, being a thought leader is no longer optional, but it's also a very mysterious and opaque process, right? It's like, how do you do that? Well, Dorie shows you that and more in this book. She explains how to identify the ideas that set you apart and how to promote them successfully. And before you think, oh, this is just, about self-promotion, it is not that at all. It's an opportunity, Dorie says, for you to change the world for the better while giving yourself the ultimate job insurance. Again, the title is Stand Out: How to Find Your Breakthrough Idea and Build a Following Around It, from Dorie Clark. The next book I want to take a look at is somewhat similar in scope to Dorie's book, but focuses in on a particular facet of the process. I'm talking about the book from Todd Henry called Louder Than Words. And Todd says, much like Dorie, that there's never been a better time to grow an audience for your ideas or your products, whether that's you as an individual, an entrepreneur, or the company you work for or represent. But with so many people and companies clamoring for attention, the challenge, again, is how to get noticed. And Todd says the key is to do work that deeply resonates with the marketplace and creates a true and lasting impact. And he sets out to show you how to do exactly that. You've got to identify what you truly stand for, Todd says. You've got to develop a compelling vision. And we've got to become masters of expressing our ideas in our chosen medium. So if it's help with harnessing the power of your authentic voice, Todd's book, Louder Than Words, will help you walk through that step by step. Todd has been a guest on the show a couple of times, and his books consistently are ones I find I'm writing in a lot, dog-earing the pages, taking lots and lots of notes. I think you'll truly enjoy it. Maybe your area of struggle begins at an earlier place than that. Maybe you're not even sure what direction you need to go. Maybe you're looking for a proven path to discovering what you were meant to do. Well, if that's the case, then the book The Art of Work from Jeff Goins is the book you need. Jeff says that a calling is not some special opportunity reserved for an elite class of people. He contends that meaningful work is available to anybody who dares to find it. But the twists and the surprises and the setbacks leave us oftentimes feeling stuck with no options left but to play it safe, which so many of us do. Jeff says, don't settle for the status quo. Live a life that matters. Jeff, too, has been a guest on the show multiple times and is welcome back anytime he wants to come back. But among the books Jeff has written, this is my absolute favorite. Again, it's called The Art of Work, a proven path for discovering what you were meant to do. You might recall that leadership concepts from each of those 3 books were highlighted in episode 100 as we took a look at the 10 top leadership lessons learned from the first 100 episodes. These last 2 books we're going to take a look at, though, were featured more recently on the podcast and are 2 of my 5 favorites of the year. In Intentional Living, John Maxwell asks the question, do you think that to make a positive impact on the world that you need to be a certain age or have a lot of money or to be famous or to have a big idea? Well, he says the good news is none of those things are necessary for you to achieve significance or create a lasting legacy. John says the key to living a life that matters is to be intentional. John has written over 100 books, and this is easily one of his most personal. And in it, he shows us how to start small but believe really, really big. How to find your why and live every day as if it matters, because it does. It's Intentional Living, Choosing a Life That Matters, from John C. Maxwell. And that brings us to the final book of the 5. If you were to ask me, Jeff, what one book should I read today if I want to become a better presenter, a better public speaker? My answer to that question would be Steal the Show. From speeches to job interviews to deal closing pitches, how to guarantee a standing ovation for all the performances in your life. And it's from Michael Port, who also wrote Book Yourself Solid, a New York Times bestseller. Now, our days, Michael says, are filled with opportunities and moments to persuade, to inform, and to motivate others. And each of those moments, he says, requires you to play a role, to heighten the impact of your words and to manage your emotions and your nerves if you want to, that is, steal the show. And he says that every one of these interactions is actually a performance. Whether you're speaking up in a meeting, pitching a client, or walking into a job interview, it's a performance. Now, the cool part about it is Michael draws upon his decades of professional acting experience and applies that to these situations in a very powerful and unique way. The book will help you discover the key strategies for commanding an audience's attention, developing clear focus for every performance, engaging your listeners, and delivering your message with maximum impact. And who doesn't want to do that, right? Michael dedicates Section 1 to what he calls the performer's mindset. Section 2 is called Powerful Performance Principles. And Section 3 alone is worth the price of the book. It's called A Master Class in Public Speaking. Again, our books and authors steal the show, from speeches to job interviews to deal closing pitches, how to guarantee a standing ovation for all the performances in your life, from Michael Port, John Maxwell's Intentional Living, Choosing a Life That Matters, from Jeff Goins, The Art of Work, a proven path for discovering what you were meant to do, Todd Henry's Louder Than Words, Harness the Power of Your Authentic Voice, and Stand Out, from Dorie Clark, how to find your breakthrough idea and build a following around it. Now, to win all 5 of these books, all you need to do is go to readtoleadpodcast.com/111. There you'll find more information about the contest. All you need to do is answer a very simple question, just a question posed to make sure you're actually a human being. And then you simply enter your email address and you're entered. It's that simple. Again, just go to readtoleadpodcast.com/111. We've had a fantastic year here at Read to Lead. I hope you've enjoyed all the books we've presented. I certainly know I've enjoyed presenting them to you. And I look forward to an even better 2016, where we hope to launch soon Read to Lead University. To get on the notification list for Read to Lead University, simply text the word university to 33444 if you're in the States, or simply make sure you're on our email list by either entering the contest or going to readtoleadpodcast.com and filling out the form on the right of the page. Well, that does it for this week and this year. I look forward to seeing you next time for the Read to Lead podcast.
Thanks so much for listening to the Read to Lead podcast. As a subscriber, we challenge you to be more than just a passive listener. Become a vital member of the community. Visit us on the web at readtoleadpodcast.com. Until next time, remember, leaders read and readers lead.